In today's agenda, I'm going to be talking about some of my favorite custom tools, or the custom tools I find most useful. These are tools that are going to help with selecting, creating, interrogating, and error checking your model. And then last, but definitely not least, I'll be demonstrating how to create a custom toolbar so that you can get quick and easy access to some of these tools. Because as you will see during the presentation, maneuvering through the custom tools menu dropdown isn't necessarily all that fast. So we're going to jump right into a demonstration. No need to preface this with much information. So here I'm going to jump into this model here. We have two simple plates that are connected via bolt connection. And this is going to jump into what I believe is probably the most helpful of the custom tools, and that is the hole-to-hole fastener here. And what it does is you just select your curves that you want on either side. Oops. Here we go, back to selecting. First you select one side and then you select the other. Apologize, having a misclick here. There we go. There we go. And there it goes. It simply creates the necessary elements that you need to create the bolted connection, and it pops up the dialog box again. So I'm going to build one more just here real quickly. And there we go. I've got two bolts that have just been added to it. So what it does is it creates some RBE2 elements and a spider connection, and then connects everything with a beam element here in the center, and it'll automatically figure out the dimensions of that beam element to match the hole of the that you're creating there. So now that we've got our bolts here connected, I want to show another little quick tool that I like to use, and that is to convert RBE2s to RBE3s. Sometimes sometimes the RBE2s are just a little too stiff, so you want to use an RBE3 instead. So quick little tool, select my two RBE2s here, and real quickly I change them to RBE3s. But as you can see, nothing's really changed in the model. There's nothing different in the model tree to indicate that we have RBE2s and RBE3s, which brings us to the next set of custom tools that I really like. And that is there are two tools here, actually. There's two separate colors for RBE2s. This one just gives you a manual process of selecting whatever colors you want for the RBE2s and RBE3s. You just click some random colors here, and then we click OK. And as you can see here, now we've got some differentiation between the RBE3s and RBE2s. The other one is a little quicker. You don't have to manually choose what colors you want. You just set separate colors, and it'll automatically do red and blue for the RBE2s and RBE3s. So this model here is fully defined. We should be able to run an analysis, which brings us to another quick little custom tool here, and that will be running a standard analysis. Most analysis are either static or modal analysis. They don't require too much in the setup definition, so the dialog or that wizard that you go through when you set up, as you go through a lot of steps that are seem to be mostly unnecessary. So what these will do is they'll take whatever active load and constraint that you have and simply apply that in an analysis. So I'm going to run a static analysis here real quickly. As you can see right here, it's created our analysis. It's actually kicked off the analysis for us, and because this is a nice simple model, it's run already. So let's take a look at those results here real quickly. Yeah, so the model did successfully run. And now that we're here in the results environment, we may want to take a screenshot of this for whatever report we're creating, which brings us to another quick, handy little custom tool, and that is the switching background for printing. When you click on that, change it to a nice white background, so that way you're not wasting any sort of ink, or if you're printing your report, or just a cleaner look in your report in general with having the white background matching the white of the background of your report. What's really nice is all you have to do is select that tool again, and it'll automatically cycle back to your previous background, which makes it really handy and quick. But you can see it's not super quick when you're going through custom tools, which is again, why in the end we'll talk about creating a custom toolbar to make tools like that accessible. So let's move on to another handy tool. I find it particularly handy when dealing with pressure vessels, like our little tank right here. And there are two different tools that I find useful here. There's the free tangent surfaces and the pick interfaces. They function differently, and they give you a way to apply that in a different manner, but we'll go through it here just real quickly to show you. So first, I'm just going to select some random surface here, and what it's going to end up doing is selecting all the faces that are tangent with each other. Click OK. So you can see here, it's turned everything red on the outside here, but it didn't include the chamfer transition right here or this hard cutoff angle down here at the bottom. So again, it only works with tangential faces. So it may not always work the way you want it to if your faces don't end up being tangential. But so how to use this now that you've gone through this step. So let's see, we're going to go apply a load here. All we do in our selection dialog box is go to the menu and change this to color, and we select any one of the faces that's had this red color applied to it. Click highlight to demonstrate here. As you can see, it's auto selected all the other faces. So I find this one particularly handy, but not necessarily enamored with the fact that it changes the color of faces for the method. So that brings me to this other one, which I find especially helpful when dealing with pressure vessels such as this. There's a weird little quirk about this. So in this simple pressure vessel here, we've got one surface that separates the inside and the outside. And if you just pick that one surface and click OK, nothing happens. It doesn't seem to like just working with one surface. But if we go back into it and let's say we pick multiple surfaces, it doesn't really matter where that second one is, and we click OK, it'll then actually continue on with the tool. And so our next step is just to pick any sort of inside face. I'm going to pick this one, so that way it knows on which side of those surfaces to start selecting, and we click OK, and there we go. Right now it's highlighting all the surfaces it picked. As you can see, it selected everything, whether faces were tangent or not to each other, which I find super helpful when dealing with pressure vessels, because trying to select all those faces on the inside, especially like manifolds, because you end up with a lot of little small features in there. And what it's done is it just created a group to apply all those surfaces to. So when you go to apply your load, say your pressure load, for example, here, you just change the drop down here in this group to between faces, that new group it created. And don't forget to click more. I always forget to do that, but you need to click more to add it to the selection list here. As we can see, we've now got all those surfaces selected. So, and if we're going to the next step, we'd be able to apply like a pressure load, for example. All right, another little handy tool for checking element quality. In this particular model, I have two different elements. I've got my hex and tetrahedral elements, and if you can see on the corners right here and over here, I've clearly distorted the model. I've collapsed an edge. So the reason why I have multiple models in here is because of the name of this particular, or multiple element types is because of the name here. It just says show bad tetras, but technically it works with all the element types there. So you can see it's identified both the bad tetrahedral and the bad hexahedral. And what it does it actually creates a group for these elements to help you reference that in the future. So there's another little tool that I find helpful if you've got only a few bad elements to look at, and that's the find worse. Oops, sorry, I'm on the wrong one. There we go. See, that's what is frustrating about the custom tools as they are. So that's why it's handy to make a custom toolbar. So there's the show worst element. Again, it just finds the worst Jacobian in your model. And apparently that is a hexahedral element. A collapsed edge gives you a Jacobian of 2, whereas a collapsed tetrahedral only gives you a Jacobian of 1. And agreed, it creates a group here making it easier to go back to reference, but you can go through this and just march through and find all your bad elements, at least one at a time if you're going to be manually repairing them. So on to our last model here. I've got only a few more tools to show. Unfortunately, there were so many tools I wish I could have shown you here, but in our time limitation, I'm only able to show what I feel are probably the most useful one. So again, we're going to go back to the meshing here. And in here, there are 4 different tools that start off with the name spider. There's spider curves, spider nodes, spider surfaces, and just spider. All these really do is just change the default selection entity for the dialog box that you want to create. So for example, if I go to like the spider curves, you see here the entity selection, it just says select for curves, and I can just easily go through here and select whatever curves, click OK, and now I've got a RBE2 connection that's connected to the center of those nodes. But personally, I don't really bother too much with those because I just find using this one is just fine. I'm familiar with and use this quite often. Just go to method. So I can go to like method here and go to on curve, and it ends up being functionally the same thing as those shorter custom tools. So yeah, that's my preferred method, is just use the spider instead of those individual ones. Now there's some additional tools that I don't have time to talk about that I really would have liked to gone over, but I've discussed these in a previous video before that we did on the new layup manager within Femap, and that's these laminate next ply and next global ply, and the previous for the plies and global plies. So I'm just going to kind of skip over those, but you can watch that video if you want to learn more about those. And in that video, I mentioned that because of how cumbersome it is to go through here, go to post-processing, find which one it is, I mentioned that it's better to create a custom toolbar to have quick access to that. So next, we're going to go show you how to do custom toolbar. So you can right-click anywhere on the toolbars right now. Just click Customize. Click New, give it a name, just going to leave it as default, and click OK. You can see up here in the upper left-hand corner of my toolbar, I've now got this blank tool. But we're not going to use that one. I've already got one started just for reference. And that's this up here. Has to deal with the laminates, the global ply, and the next ply. So the way you create these new custom keys to reference a API is just go to the user commands here, give it a name. I'm going to do global previous ply, put in the file path here. As you can see, I've already browsed to this, but it's in your installation folder for the version API post-processing. We're going to laminate previous ply global here. Click OK, and all I need to do is click Add at this point. So now you can see it in our list here. Unfortunately, that's something weird about this. It doesn't actually populate in any of the lists. It's just not here. So the only way I figured out to be able to get this to populate in the rest of the customized dialog box is simply to close out and reopen. So now here we can see on our global, there's our global previous ply. It's in there already, but now our commands are available. So to get this onto our toolbar, all I do is click and drag it onto the toolbar I want, and there we go. So now I have 4 different tools up here. I'm going to show you how to customize these, because right now it's just text, but we could change this to graphical icons like most of the other options in the toolbar, and we can also do graphics and text. But the only way to do that is, again, you have to open up the customize here. You'll see it's not actually anywhere in here. To do that, instead, we have to have this customized toolbar, and then we can right click up here and make any sort of modifications to those tools. So right now we can change the name if we wanted to. We can change the style from like default style to text only, and image and text. But right now we don't have an image applied, so that's why nothing really changed. So let's go to default style. There's a few options here we have for creating a graphic icon there. Right now we'll just click on edit button to show this. And what it does is it gives you this little tiny editor, which you could kind of draw in and create any sort of graphic you want. It is horribly painful. I don't really recommend doing this unless you really find pixel art very fun to do. But if I cancel out of this, you can see, we'll go back here and again, you can see we don't have any of these other options. They're all grayed out. What I really want to get is the change button image here, and this will get me to access some of the library of already created images. So I'm going to go back here to edit the picture, do a little doodle and click OK. You see up here right now, it changed that doodle, though we can't really identify what that doodle is. But now if we right click on it, we now have some additional options for us. So I'm going to change this to the right arrow here, and there we go. Now my laminate next applies this right arrow. We'll go through these options here real again. Quickly, see there's a default style, which is the icon, text only, even though we have a graphic assigned to it, has just brought us back to the text. And then we can do image and text. So now you can see my little icon there and the laminate next apply text description. Well, that's sort of fun, but I like to customize a little bit more. So I'm going to show you something else we can do. I'm going to go to edit button image again, just kind of do whatever. And you can see now, oops. Oh, there we go, sorry. Not what I want. So let's go over here, as I've already prepared a graphic for this particular one. So for global apply, I created this, I got this little globe here and this sort of little triangular arrow to the right. Just do a little box and do copy. And if I right click over here, I can now do paste button image, and there we go. Now I've got my little globe there with the little right arrow. Make some little quick changes. There's text again and image and text. So makes it easy to quickly reference and access some of these custom tools without necessarily have to go to the menu, scan through all the different submenus, and then identify the appropriate text. Now I got a quick reference. You can also make it even quicker by here putting in some hotkeys for it. So let's say like the global next apply, select that, and then right over here, I'm going to do control right arrow on my keyboard, press that, boom, and then just click assign, and now that's been assigned to that. So now I've got a little hotkey that automatically execute that API. And for like the previous apply here, just to redemonstrate, control left arrow, placed it in there, click assign, and now it's done. So now I've got hotkeys for two different options that are two different APIs that I want to run frequently. So that concludes the demonstration there. Hopefully it wasn't too fast. I know there are a lot of little things to cover. So a brief little summary of what we went over. In the element update menu, there is the choose separate colors for RBEs, and then that is a manual process, lets you manually select what colors you want, and then there's the auto separate colors for RBEs, which just automatically does the red and blue. And then there's also the convert RBE2s to RBE3s. Very handy if you find your RBE2s to be a little too on the stiff side, or if you're like me, you're lazy and you do the spider, which automatically creates RBE2s, and then you just go through and change them to RBE3s. And then in the geometry processing, there's two selection tools I find handy. That's the pick interfaces, very useful for pressure vessels. Anything along there where you definitely want to get all those little minute little features in there. And then there's the fine tangent surfaces, which could work, but it depends. You might have some sharp angles that won't necessarily be captured. So handy, but has some limitations to it. In the meshing tools, the hole fastener, which I feel is probably the most convenient tool of all of them, definitely makes it much easier to create bolted connections. And there's for element quality check, show the worst element or show bad tets. Even though it says show bad tets, it works for all the other element types. And then those spider connections, very handy to bring that up. Just a click of a button if you've got that in the custom tool to then start automatically creating those RBE elements. Post-processing, again, I kind of glossed over these. We've covered them in a previous video. That was the Femap video on the new layout manager. Highly recommend giving that a watch if you want to see how those function, but we use those to apply our custom or create our custom toolbar. And then there's the standard analysis. If you're frequently running linear static and modal analysis and don't run a bunch of subcases, just a simple click of the button, you'll have your analysis created and running. And then lastly, the switch color for post-processing. I do a lot of manual screenshots for when I create my reports, so it's very handy to have it switched over to white. But I don't like working with white because it can be a bit harsh on the eyes. So I definitely find that tool very handy for switching colors. If you'd like more assistance on the API, I highly recommend checking out the Siemens community forum. There is an active group of users who are very API knowledgeable. Highly recommend posting any sort of questions there, and you can even find some custom tools that have been shared there. I highly recommend that. And then also, if you're looking for the dictionary on the API, on all the commands available for you, it's located in the installation folder for Siemens, for Femap. So for example, for Femap 2301, you'll find that in your program files, Siemens Femap 2301 in the PDF folder, and you're looking for the API.pdf document.
Thanks for checking out our channel. If you like what you saw, make sure to like and subscribe down below so you don't miss out on any new videos. Follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter for the latest engineering news and information. And to see all of our upcoming events, please visit our website at saratech.com/events.